Hey, my name is Andrew, and I build a lot of applications with agents and different IDEs. And I wanted a way to do what I call context stacking better. Um, I do a lot of copying logs and pasting images and screenshotting and transcribing, and I just felt like there could be a better way to do context management at inference time. So I made this application for myself and I thought it could be useful for other people. It's called Field Theory, um, and I want to show you how it works. So first, what is context stacking? All right, let's say I'm like working on this web page and I want to make it better. First off, I really love this hero image, and I think the headline is great too. Although I'm not really sure about this like hot news headlines thing. It feels like kind of a relic. Can we just get rid of it? Okay, a few things. First, the recording dot for the local transcription is next to the cursor. Just like easier to find when it's directly next to your cursor and you can move your mouse and find it immediately. The second thing is every time you take a screenshot while you're transcribing, it stacks the image. And so you can see the three pipes that are next to the little red dot. So if I go into, say, cursor, and I finish my transcription, it's going to paste everything in. All three images, all the text that I just said, and as sort of like a nice feature to reduce the confusion that may be introduced. This is figure 1, this is figure 2, and this is figure 3. And as you can see, figure 1 and figure 2 are in line with the context when I took the screenshots. Figure 3 is in line with when I took the screenshot. This is really helpful just generally that the model knows what you're pointing at. In fact, you can kind of think of context stacking and sort of generally like humans are doing a lot of pointing at their computers, and this is intended to make it a bit easier. Okay, so that was a multimodal input field handling that. I want to do the exact same thing, but I want to do it in a CLI. So let's go back to our web page. I have a few other changes that I wanted to include. Can we get rid of these 4 things down at the bottom? They just feel a bit extra. And then also the search seems like in a weird location. Let's maybe move that to the top right instead of putting it where it is here. We're going to go into Claude Code, which is got lots of amazing features and does support images. But in this case, the way that Field Theory handles it is with file paths. So I'm going to interrupt this just so that we can see. Again, the same text and transcription, figure 1, figure 2, etc. But then this time at the bottom, Field Theory noticed that it was a terminal that we were talking to and pasted the images at the bottom, much like a scientific paper. So you have figure 1, figure 2, and then you've got sort of like the links to the paths. Claude Code loves this because it can read file paths and directories. Okay, cool. So let's move on to auto improve. When you're talking out loud, it's really easy to brainstorm and to sort of go off on tangents and to explore lots of ideas. And I actually think that that's like a very useful thing for a model to understand. However, it also sometimes introduces ambiguity. And there are certainly many things that we might clean up if we were to rewrite what we say aloud. So Field Theory has this thing called auto improve. If you turn it on, it's on by default, but if you turn it on, the general hypothesis is that the more you talk, the more there is to clean up. So you set a threshold. I like 70 to 80. It feels about right. It starts when like I could probably use some cleanup, but you can kind of do whatever feels right. I want to show you how this works. All right, one more time. Had a few things I wanted to show. Our navigation is kind of nuts. We've got a lot of stuff going on here. Can we actually get rid of the sort of like a secondary navigation by default and instead like show that on hover? Also, I'm not really sure why hot news is the very first thing that we're really excited about hot news. Why is it the first thing here? We're going to go back into an interface, and we're going to finish our transcription. This time, transcription sort of finishes, and then it gets packaged, sent off to a model, and that model does an improvement. All right, one more time. I had a few things I wanted to show. Our navigation is overwhelming with too much content displayed simultaneously. Figure 1, can we remove the secondary navigation? So it's the same intent. It's the same purpose, but it's cleaned up, it's tidied up, and a bit better organized. All right, draw. If you're doing a lot of application building, you're doing a lot of transcribing, you're also probably not just pointing at things, but also like verbally, you're also actually pointing at things. And so I spent a lot of time in Figma and a lot of time in TLDraw and ScallyDraw and all these other things. And so if we want to do it just kind of directly, you can take a screenshot. We can open field theory, go into our list of fields, and I can click draw, or I can, click draw here, and we can say, you know what, I really like this portion, and I really like that arrow there, and we can hit save and copy, and it'll go to the clipboard, or we can hit save, and it'll just become this item. And when I'm in here, if I open field theory and I click any of the sort of items, it's going to paste it directly in with all of the annotations that I added. So it's really just bringing drawing closer to the paste mechanic that you're doing, thousands of times a day. Okay, portable commands. This was not something that I expected to be as important to me as it has become. This is probably one of the most important features of field theory, at least for my workflow. If we go back to cursor, if you use cursor, you'll be really familiar with commands. They even have, popular ones like dslop. I think Eric came up with that one over at the cursor team. These are awesome. Like, these are super useful. You're essentially running macros in natural language at any time, anywhere in the code base, and you can create them on the fly. If I say, if I write something like field theory, I write something like field or field theory, it's going to allow me to create a command. Okay, I would really love to be able to access those commands when I go to Claude Code. The problem is when I'm in here, and let me just clear this so it's easier to see. If I do dslop, it's not there. So I've got a couple options. I could recreate it here, or I could use portable commands. So I'll just show you. I have this thing called review. Actually, let's use eng. Yeah, I have this thing called eng, which is like engineering principles that I want to remind it of. It's not in here. If I do portable commands, which is Shift Command K, you get this little field theory dialog box, and I can say eng, and it's going to paste the file path of the markdown file. This is really useful for a lot of reasons, because now I can manage everything in one particular place, and I can also do something cool like this. Can you please use the commit command, also the PR command, the logs command, and the review command? And what's cool about this is, like, you can essentially just say commands out loud and, paste them in instantly. This is really useful if you're getting into like 400 or 500 words transcribed, and you have got commands in between, you've got screenshots that you've taken. All of that sort of gets bundled into this stack and then gets tossed into the context window. So that's both portable commands and verbal commands. The last thing I want to show with sort of where these things can go is that you can use it in any application. So I can go in here and let's say I want to like toss this section in. I preserve like the original and the improved text. You can sort of see all of it if you'd like. But if I click this, it's going to get pasted directly into ChatGPT. So, some of your more like standard consumer web applications, anything with an input field that supports multimodal or just local lookup should work. And I find like a number of times where like I actually want my command review here in ChatGPT. Review just sort of like goes off, and it doesn't really matter. It just sort of goes off and like reviews what was just proposed. But that's something that's like not unique just to IDEs or to CLIs. It's something that like I can use when I'm actually having it review a bunch of research that it's done. So portable commands has been really useful for me, and I think you might get some mileage out of it. All right, the last thing is Priority Mic. This is a Hollyland Lark, I think. I really like it. It's a great microphone. When you're doing a lot of transcription, you find that actually separating your headphones microphone to like a dedicated mic. There's a lot more dedicated mics. You've probably seen the stuff on X where it's like, you've got the big boom goose microphone that someone's speaking into. Feels like a joke, but in reality, it's really practical to have a dedicated microphone. And so Field Theory has this thing called Priority Mic. If you set it, in this case, the default name for this is wireless microphone. If you set it to wireless microphone, and then I turn on my Bose headphones, that's going to try to steal the microphone when it turns on and connects to my laptop. But Field Theory will stop it from happening and only have it be speakers. And so you can listen to your music and it doesn't interrupt. If you've worked with transcription or anything like this, you'll know that this is like one of the most annoying things when you're listening to music and you hit your transcribe button and all of a sudden it turns super tinny and mono instead of stereo, and you're like, what's going on? It just kind of like breaks the immersion of the work that you're doing. So anyway, Field Theory is free. Unless you use some of the more like, if you're like a heavy user, then you can pay for it. But this is like a side project, very much a labor of love. There's a bunch of little quirky, fun things about the application if you toy around with it. And there's a bunch of configurability that you can do as well. If you have any feedback, you can also use the feedback section here and just like send it to me and I can reply, and you're welcome to, of course, use Field Theory to give me feedback on Field Theory. Yeah, I hope it makes your life easier. It certainly made my life easier. And yeah, thanks again for listening.